911, what are you reporting?
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
My dog went flying through the air over the tree. I don't know how it did it.
Okay.
Damn it, I'm really confused. All I saw was my dog coming over the fence, and he was dead when she hit the ground. I didn't see any cars. All I saw was my dog coming over the fence.
What are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was?
It was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Dia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Sasquatch Odyssey. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us for the show. It is Friday. I hope you guys have had an amazing week. We've got a great guest lined up for you, but as always, I want to start the show by inviting you. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, you can send me an email. You can get me at brian@sasquatchodyssey.net. If you haven't already done so, go over and check out the website. You can check out the premium content section there. Go to Patreon and help support the show. As I said, we've got a great guest lined up for you guys. We have Bobby from North Carolina. If you guys have listened to the show for any length of time, Bobby was on early on in the show, and he's over near the Uwharrie National Forest here in North Carolina, my home state. And Bobby continues to have things going on his property out there. So Bobby's back tonight to tell us what's been going on there in the Uwharrie and give us an update on things going on there. I've got a great interview coming up, guys. You probably saw the teaser and you've heard me talk about it. I have scheduled the interview with Les Stroud from Survivor Man Bigfoot. I'm going to interview Les on the 22nd, and that show will probably air either that Friday or the following week. But I'll give you guys an update. There'll probably be another little teaser coming out with some things on the show to let you guys know exactly when it'll be there. Of course, the members will get it early. They'll get early access probably 2 days before it actually goes live. It'll go live for the members, and of course, it will be ad-free for them. So anyway, thank you guys so much for the continued support. I appreciate you guys showing up week after week. I say that often. We're going to have a great show over on the Paranormal Odyssey on Sunday, so if you guys are into that, go over and check out my interview with Preston. Preston is a UFO researcher, and he has been doing this since the 80s, and we had a great conversation over there about some of the cases and some of his personal experiences. So check out Paranormal Odyssey on Sunday. I'll probably post that over here for you guys yet again. At some point, I'll eventually stop doing that, so you guys know the show's over there. It's going to post every Sunday, so I'll let you guys migrate over there and listen to the show as you feel the need or as you see fit. So I appreciate the support that you've shown that show as well. Continue to rate and review, guys. The ratings and reviews have went up. I appreciate you guys who have continued to show up and support the show week after week. So I'm going to stop droning on and let the music play. We're going to get over to Bobby. Thank you guys so much. You guys sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I want to welcome Bobby back to the show. Bobby comes to us from North Carolina. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, Brian.
Glad to have you back, man. I know everybody loved the show we did with you the first time around, and I know you've continued to have things going on your property out there. So why don't you just give us an update and tell us what you've been dealing with, man?
Okay, well, right here around my property, here about maybe 3 months ago, not 2 months ago, something like that, me and my wife bought a camper, okay? And we got it parked in the side yard over next to the woods. We were going to go to the lake that weekend, one weekend. We got down there. We couldn't find a campsite at a campground nowhere. Wound up coming back home. So I told my wife, I said, the kids were all excited about camping at the lake. I said, when we get back home, I'm going to set the camper up. We'll just camp out in the yard. So we did that. And we had a fire going and everything. And kids were playing. And I heard this faint, low growl, okay, coming from the right side of my property down in this drainage. But it's all in the woods. I didn't say nothing about it because I thought, it might have been whatever. And about maybe 15, 20 minutes later, my son says, Daddy, did you hear that? I said, yes, son, I heard it a while ago. We had the radio on in the camper. I said, go turn that radio down for me. He turned the radio down and we listened for a few minutes and it was just quiet. I said, turn it back up about like it was. And we went back to just doing what we were doing. The girls was playing and me and the boy was messing with the fire. My wife was sitting in the chair and this thing let out a growl. Well, this time it was louder and everybody heard it. My wife heard it over the radio and the kids playing and everything. So it was loud enough and deep enough. It scared the tar out of her. She said, we're going in the house right now, you know. So I kind of got them in the house. They went in the back porch door. I took my light and shined down in there, and all I could see was the eyes. But where it was standing at, it was probably 7, maybe 8 foot tall, somewhere in that range. But then I started to approach it, and it took off like they always do, right back up the drainage, back up into the forest. And then a few nights later, I think the camper, they didn't know what was going on, and they didn't like it to start with, because they messed around quite often for about a week after that. And anyway, so me and my brother went out there a couple of days later, and we followed that set of tracks for about, I don't know, probably 150 yards maybe. We found some new stick structures and stuff like that. And then it was about a week and a half after that happened. I was out on the front porch. It was about 9:30 at night, and I was on the phone with my buddy Bentley. And I was just standing here on the porch talking to him. And well, in front of my house, in between, I have my driveway, then there's woods, and then there's a pond. Well, in between the woods and the pond, there's a little grass opening. It's not very big, but it may be 40 yards from the woods to the pond. And then, you know, it's probably 60 or 70 yards the other way. So I'm standing here on the phone talking to him, and the moon was shining bright that night. I'm just looking around. I'm looking down there at the moon shining off the pond. And I would have never saw this thing if it hadn't moved. But it was right 30 yards at the max. There's a cedar tree, and it was squatted down underneath the cedar tree limb, just sitting there. And I think that it thought I saw it because I was looking that way, but I didn't see it until it stood up. It stood up. And when it stood up, it ran down this opening because we got a four-wheeler path that goes down to the pond. It ran down that four-wheeler path, and I could see it from the moonlight. And when it hit the opening where the grass starts, it went down on all fours, and it took a hard left, and it ran down through there about 50 yards and came back up in the woods, went across my driveway and back up into the big woods behind my property. And it did all that in about a second and a half max. and it was a gray, brownish, reddish, black color. That's what, and but when it stood up, it wasn't a very big one. It wasn't 8 foot tall and 800 pounds. It was more like 6 foot tall and 300 pounds maybe. But now the distance it ran on 2 feet was about 25 yards, and then it went down on all fours. And it was fast on 2 feet, but when it went down on all fours, it was like Michael Johnson ain't touching that. It was gone.
Yeah, I've heard that over and over and over again from people I've talked to about how fast these things are on all fours. When it was on all fours, did it look like a chimp running? What could you describe it so people in the audience could understand what you saw?
From the view I got, because I'm up on the hill, okay, and I have actually showed this area in one of my videos I did before after that happened, but so I'm looking down on it, you know what I'm saying? But to me, maybe it was just because it was dark. It didn't look, I don't think they look like chimps or gorillas. Not the ones I saw. They have a resemblance, but it looked more like a huge dude covered in hair. Like the back and the shoulders when it went down on all fours, that's what I could see. And I couldn't see the head no more when it went down. And it just looked like a humongous back of, a linebacker or something to me. But it was, it was all covered in hair. But now they do tend to run like that, like gorillas and chimps do. I actually have a knuckle print cast that I found, and they do that a lot. As a matter of fact, I think sometimes they get missed because everybody's looking 8 foot up in the air and they're down on all fours, and you don't see them because they use the underbrush as cover.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people talking about these things crawling around, and they say they look like spiders when they're crawling on the ground, which it's hard for me to picture something that big being able to get that low to the ground and move as fast as they do. It just doesn't seem natural.
Right. Well, I've heard of the spider crawl. I've never seen them do that. When I say down on all fours, I mean they're just down on all fours. Like I honest to God, sometimes think they're trying to imitate a bear, so you won't know what you're looking at. I haven't seen one crawl on the ground, but when this thing was down on all fours, its back was still probably 4 feet up in the air. But now that one, and that was the first time that particular situation has ever happened here. And I was actually shocked because I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't out here looking for anything or listening for nothing. I was just out here on the phone with my buddy, and I was like, "What is that?" And then I was like, "Holy cow!" And my buddy's on the phone going, "What is it, man? What is it?" I said, "Dude, one of them things was just standing here watching me." Yeah. And like I say, when I realized what it was, and it took off running, by the time I got to the end of my sidewalk, I mean, it was so fast, man. I was like, wow, it's already over here. And like I say, it wasn't a full grown one. It was probably about 6 foot tall. I'm guessing it might have weighed 300 pounds. It was very broad and thick.
So you think you've got a family of these things living around the property? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, there is a family of 3 that, well, I think there's 4 of them now. It used to be 3, but because I found a set of baby prints back in the fall. But there's another set of them in this forest. So what I'm saying is there's 2. Some people call them family groups. Some people call them clans. There's 2 different sets of them out here. So altogether, I think there may be 6 or 8 of them roaming this part of the Uwharrie forest, which is thousands of acres.
And you say that you think there's 2 sets just because of the vocalizations and the ones that you've seen and the evidence that you've seen? Is that?
Well, yeah, and the tracks I have found, for one, because I have some track casts they match, which tells you it's most likely the same creature. But then I have found some that they don't match none of the ones I've got. in particular, I'll go ahead and tell you about this. Like the track that I sent you the pictures of a while ago, I got that at a new research area.
Yeah, I was going to say, with your
It's in
permission,
the same forest, but it's 4 miles away from me. And I found that cast right beside a rainbow structure is what they're called. And this wasn't an old one. It was fresh. That tree had been pulled over and the top end of it was shoved down in the ground. I have pictures of all that.
Yeah, I was going to say, with your permission, I would like to send that picture or the couple of pictures that you have of the cast on to Dr. Meldrum and let him take a look at them and let him tell me what he thinks about the tracks or the cast that you have.
Yeah, that's fine with me. And also this cast, and I just noticed it actually today, but in the middle of it, and I guess it could be from something else, but I swear it looks like it's got hair sticking up on the bottom of it, but I don't know for sure. It's some kind of hair or fiber or something, but anyway. But I had been talking to this guy, and he had been telling me he'd been hearing weird stuff, you know. Well, in doing the research I've done out here in the forest, I already had an idea that they were traveling to a certain area besides this one. And that fella just happened to live in that area. And I told him, I said, yeah, I definitely want to come over there and look around. And so I found several things over there, but I found this track, and there were other tracks. That one just happened to be castable. But I found it literally right beside where that stick structure had just been made. And that thing was pushed down in the ground so far, Brian, I would have had to take both hands and probably pull really, really hard to pull it out.
Bobby, what do you think the stick structures are? I've went back and forth on this for so long, and I've talked to so many people that think so many different things. And what do you think they're doing with the stick structures? What, in your opinion, what do you think they mean or what they are?
I've got two simple things. That rainbow structure where I found that track, it was right over a deer trail, and I mean a heavy used deer trail. Okay. I have found them in other places in the forest the same way. So I think that is a hunting marker. I don't believe the stick structures have one thing to do with human beings at all. You know, you hear these people say, oh, it means stay out. Some of them may, but this particular one, the rainbow structures, I believe, are hunting area indicators, basically. Because every time I find one, it's on a deer trail. And deer don't pull trees over and stick them down in the ground like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually the first time I've ever heard that. And it does make sense that if you're finding those things near a deer trail, that it may be something related to them hunting. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
I can tell you this for sure, and I can't speak for them in other states or other areas, but here, their main food source is white-tailed deer, and that's what their activity revolves around mostly. So see, what happened is the deer herd on my side of the forest has slimmed out over, you're talking 6 years now, these things been messing, and they were probably here before, but the deer herd is still heavy on the other side of the forest, so guess where activity's picked up at?
Where the food moved to, right?
The other side of the forest. But, and the X structure, man, you know, I found the first three of them all three of them were by a deer trail, but they were in front of some kind of like a place to hide. And in the case of the ones I found, they were in front of the top end of two blew down oak trees that still had the leaves on them, but they were dead, which makes perfect natural hunting blinds. And also, they were literally across the mountain from each other, like 300 yards apart. And so we stayed up there a few nights, and we would get, I could do a whoop or a wood knock, and we would get wood knocks and howls back from both sides of us, from behind both X markers, which that also told me And you can tell it's coming from a different location around you. There was 4 of us up there too. So, but, so I knew from that too, there was at least 3 hanging around over here. And then from the pictures that I have, but.
Well, I talked to you early on when I started the show. You were one of the first people that I had on the show, and I've talked to hundreds of people since I've talked to you. Right. And I've asked a lot of people about the wood knocks. What do you think they use the wood knocks for? Just in your opinion, we obviously nobody knows, but what do you think the wood knocks are for?
I think they have multiple uses for them. One, here's what I have found. If you go out, if you're in an active area where they are at, and you go out there and you let your presence be known by going whoop, first of all, they already know that you ain't one of them. They already know, you know what I'm saying? But you can almost fool them sometimes. But I've done that a bunch, and then you'll get one single wood knock. I think that says to the other ones, that wasn't me. Because it's usually be the one that's the closest to you that does the wood knock. And I think that's them saying, I'm here, and that wasn't me. Sometimes when you wood knock and they would knock back, I don't know. I know that I've been leaving the forest before during the day. And when we get past a certain point off behind us, you'd hear 3. And best I can tell is they're saying, okay, the humans are leaving when they do that.
Yeah, I've had Carter Bouchard on the show, the author of Sasquatch Evidence of an Enigma. And that was one of the theories that Carter had, was that these things use wood knocks to count. If they're hundreds of yards apart or even farther in some cases, and there's people around, they use that to signal, like you said, hey, there's 1 guy here, there's 3 here, there's 4 here, now they're leaving, that kind of thing. So
right.
It definitely makes sense, man. What else have you had going on out there? Have you had any aggressive encounters or?
Well, the night that one scared my wife and kids into the house, that's the last aggressive encounter that we've had. And it didn't approach us or anything, but it was growling you just got to hear it. And there's not another animal on the planet that sounds like that.
Yeah, I haven't heard the growl, but I don't know if I told you when we were talking before when you were on the show that I had heard vocalizations here on our property, but just about a month ago. I'd never heard them this close. We'd always hear them. There's a big ridge on the back of the property, and there's like another 150 acres behind us. And probably 50 yards from the house, we heard, I can't describe it anything other than it sounded like the Ohio howl.
Right.
Just a little bit lower tone than the Ohio howl. And it ended in a bark.
Yeah.
At the end. And that freaked me out, man. I've never heard that sound recorded before. Like, I'd never heard a vocalization of somebody saying, hey, this is a Sasquatch. And it ended in like a bark at the end. It was freaky.
Right. We got one night out here on audio, and I still have the audio, but I'm not going to give away my trick because I'm going to use it in the future. But we had set up a tent and made out like there was somebody camping back here, and they didn't like that. But we sat out there, I don't know, till about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, but that thing approached the tent, and it's on. It got caught on thermal imaging. Okay, but it barked like a dog, but you could tell it wasn't a dog, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, I know. I heard it. I know.
Right, and you can tell if it's a dog, it's a 500-pound dog. You know what I mean? So they do that. Now, I caught a howl here about 3-4 weeks ago on audio, and it kind of reminded me of the Ohio howl. It was the first time I'd heard that particular one here.
What type of vocalizations are you normally hearing from them around your property?
We hear howls, growls. I've heard them chatter. Matter of fact, I've had them to do that directly to me one night, but I don't know what they're saying, but they're saying something. And sometimes they will do this right here. And I can't do it justice, but I don't know no other way to do it. They just do this right here. Woo, woo. I don't know what it means. We've had them on one side of the property and more of them on the other side of the property, and sit out here on the porch and listen to them do that back and forth to each other. It's just like a woo, but it's low. It's not real loud. It's just like they're saying something back and forth to each other.
That's strange. Have you guys ever, I don't know what kind of capabilities you have or whatnot, or what kind of research you're doing, but have you guys ever tried to call blast like the Sierra sounds or anything to get any kind of a response from them?
Okay. Yes, we have, and we do get responses. We actually did that in my backyard one night, and I don't do it much, but I do it every now and then. And we were sitting out here in the dark with a flare, and one came down basically in front of us to where we were, but it stayed in the woods, and it was walking on all fours. And you could see it stick its arm out like to push a limb out of the way. And it walked on down past us in behind some thick stuff. Okay. That was after we had been called doing the Sierra sounds for probably, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And we wasn't constantly doing them either, but just every few minutes we'd do one of the sounds. So then later on that night, on the back side of my property, this was on the side, we had one go across the power line back behind my property while we were doing that. And it was on all fours too. So, I mean, it's they respond to that stuff. It's not always, that particular night, they didn't make any noise. They didn't throw nothing or none of that stuff. But, think they just came down to see what's going on here. But now at my new research area, our very first night over there, it was me, my brother, my son, and my nephew. We were just sitting at the edge of the woods in this yard. Okay, 'cause that place is like mine. It's backed up right to the forest, and it's surrounded by woods. And we sat out there and just talked and stuff for a little while. And then I said, okay, let's get started. Because I had already found this track, and I found that tree structure, and we found other tree structures over there too. One thing looked like a nest. I'll get to that in a minute though, because I got a theory. So started out, I did a wood knock, just one. And from back the same direction that I found this track and that rainbow structure, there came a loud, crisp, clear wood knock. I was like, all right, game on to here, So then we just sit there and be quiet for a little while. See, then you could start hearing stuff slowly creeping around in the forest. So I did two. When I say I do a whoop, I don't really do a whoop. I ain't never really heard them do a whoop with a P on the end of it, if that makes any sense. To me, it's more like a woo, woo. So anyway, I did two of them, not really loud, and it just got quiet. We waited about 15 minutes, and I told my son, I said, son, do a whoop. Just do it mildly. Don't do it real loud or nothing, because they ain't far away. He did that whoop, and I kid you not, Brian. Now, like I say, my boy was with me, my brother was with me, and my nephew. There were 4 of them things over there, and we heard them come running through the forest, and they were I can't describe the racket they was making. Man, it sounded like a bunch of monkeys running through the woods is what the vocalization, sounded like pissed off monkeys. Okay. I don't know no other way to describe it. So, they're not going away from us. They were coming to us. And I was like, holy cow, man, and we hear them and we get the lights and everything, and we're shining with our flashlights, and we can hear them, but we still can't see them. And this female, and I know it was a female, she starts letting out this moaning sound, like almost like she was in distress. And we're walking that way, and all of a sudden, blam, there comes a rock out of the woods, and it landed about 4 foot from me. And it was a flint rock about big around as a baseball. And my brother's like, oh, holy cow, and I'll tell people, because I know some people get upset over this, but if you ain't never been in that situation, you don't understand. So my brother pulls his pistol. I said, just calm down. They didn't hit us. I said, something is up. They get upset and show themselves sometimes, but they were being abnormally aggressive. Okay. So we hear this female, she takes off back to where the area we just came from. And she's over there, and then I hit it with, finally, there's her eyes, and she was looking at us, making that, I don't know how to do that sound, man. It was crazy. It made you cringe. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, there's a reason she went up that way, and these are down here making this racket, keeping us, like they were trying to distract us. So we walked down to this, there was a 4-wheeler trail that goes down through the woods. We get to it, and we get another rock threw at us. And my brother's like, all right, man, I've had enough of getting rocks thrown at me tonight already. I said, let's ease back up this way. So we ease back up, and the female, she lets out that moan again, and then you hear her take off. And then it's quiet for a second, and then you hear them all take off right back the same direction they came from. So the next day, we go over there to look around, and I find this, it looks like a nest. I don't know how else to describe it. And when I say nest, I don't mean it looks like, somebody weaved a basket together. It looks like they used a bunch of trees and branches, and they fashioned them in a way where they could get inside of it and sleep. And then there's one, and I got video of this, and there's one off to the side. It looked like a cave, but it was out of tree branches and stuff. And I crawled inside of it, but it was like a different chamber, like for the kids. You know what I'm saying? And there was one on either side of it, and then the one in the middle was a great big area. And I'm going back over there. I just hadn't made it yet. But so that area is the area the female went to that night and was making that moaning distress sound. And after we found that deal, I told my brother, I said, man, do you, and this is, I don't know for sure, but this is what I think happened. I think they were off hunting, gathering food, whatever it is they were doing. I think they had a little one in that deal, and we was almost on top of it.
That would definitely make sense. Do you think when you had your son do the whoop did that somehow trigger them because he's younger than you guys or something? Because it seemed like when he did the whoop is when you guys got the aggressive behavior.
Yes, and here's what I think it did. I think that these ones around here have heard me so much, even just me talking in the woods, because I've been out there so much. They know who I am. I'm sure when they smell me, they already know who I am before they ever see me or hear me. But when he did his, I think it tricked them. I think just for a few minutes, they thought another clan had come in. And then they realized, it was humans. Well, they may throw rocks at other clans. I don't know. I'd love to witness that. And I honestly, we looked that thing over, and there were prints going in and out of it and stuff. And I told my brother, I said, man, you know what? If we had known there was a little one in there, I could have snatched it up and been gone before they even knew what was going on. Because this is going to sound crazy, but this little nest-looking structure, it wasn't 30 yards in the woods. It ain't 30 yards in the woods from this guy's backyard. But the kicker is, nobody lived at that place for years until he got it. So, but now that was a wild one, that was. And
What kind of evidence have you been able to capture? I know you've been using trail cams, and you've actually sent me some of the pictures from the trail cams that you've captured. And are you getting audio? Are you getting pictures of these things to this day?
I've got audio, I've got pictures, I've got cast. I have a hair sample that we found a couple weeks ago, but I mean, I don't know. I can't say that it is Bigfoot hair, you know what I'm saying? But it's not deer hair. It's not fur like off of a deer, a rabbit, a squirrel, fox, coyote, nothing like that. It's really thick and coarse. And it's white, black, and red. But we actually found it, me and my brother did, when we were following them tracks. I bagged it, but it may not be nothing. I just know it's not from no animal that I've ever messed with or seen up close, like deer, rabbits. It's not fur.
I'd love it if you could take some pictures of it and send it to me, because I know Doug Hychek, who I've interviewed for the show. His show hasn't aired yet, but he was a producer on Monster Quest for years, and he's been in the Bigfoot community for decades and decades, and he's had personal experiences too. He does a lot of DNA and hair sample analysis. So I'd love for you to, if you can get some good close-up pictures of it and send it to me, I'll forward it on to Doug, and it may be something he wants to take a look at, and maybe he can, if you can send him some of it, maybe he can take a look at it and give his opinion, because I'd be very interested in seeing what he has to say about it.
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Like I say, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's Bigfoot hair. I just don't know what it comes from. It don't look like nothing native to here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's interesting that you guys found it on a trackway that you were tracking of what you believe to be Sasquatch. So that's in of itself is something, I would think. So yeah, if you could take some good close-up pictures of it and let me forward it on to him, and if he's interested, I'll hook you guys up, and maybe you can send him a sample and let him take a look at it.
Right. Sure. It's a nice big clump of it. It's not, it ain't just one or two hairs. It's like a clump of hair about big as a 50-cent piece. So yeah, I can do that. And also, like I say, I have them videos from, I have them, but they're not mine, if that makes any sense. They were gotten on my property, but Lee is the one that got them on his FLIR video recorder. I was with him when he got them, though, right here in my yard. And I've got the pictures, I've got the cast, stick structure pictures. I've been trying to document, because here lately it seems like every time we go out in the woods, we find a new X formation. And it's like, I know they wasn't there a week ago, you know what I'm saying? And again, the last one of them I found, it was close to a deer trail. But it also, I'll tell you something else about them. This ridge line, this thing comes down and filters out right by my place into a drainage. But the ridge line goes all the way about a mile and a half back before it drops off the other side. I have noticed that they got these X's and different type stick structure deals. They've got them all the way along that ridge line, about middle way up it when you start to climb. If you walk that ridge line, the side of it, not the top, you'll see these things just all over the place up through there. And it's a lot of them literally look like homemade hunting blinds, and it'll have an X on both sides of it. I'm like, why an X? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's fascinating, man. But I hear that often, those types of structures, and you're really the first person that's ever really drawn the correlation to them being along like a deer trail or some kind of game trail. So I don't think that's too far off from what might actually be happening. It may be their deer blind.
Well, they don't just do it. And what I mean by that is it's for, everything a wild animal does has to do with its survival. it don't do nothing just for no reason. So, it's just where I find them at. It's like, I used to didn't have a clue. I was like, what? And when I first started doing this, I thought, oh, it means for me to stay out. Well, they're in that area because people don't go there for the most part. So why would it be for people?
Yeah, I agree. That doesn't make sense, honestly. I've thought that over and over again, and it doesn't really make sense because people find these things 8 miles deep in the woods, and it's not something that's, it's not like a picnic area that's off the side of the road where you're finding these things. So it doesn't make sense that it's for people. And I think a lot of times we're people, so we think everything has to do with us, right? But I agree with you. I think these things are some sort of flesh and blood creature. And when you're 300, 400, 800 pounds, you don't have time to do anything that doesn't involve your eating, sleeping, pooping, and making babies. That's just what these things do. So,
right. And two, it's like, if there is a trail, I can give folks an example of this. I have a 4-wheeler trail on my property that goes into the woods, but it only goes into the woods about 100 yards because in this part of the Uwharrie forest, there's no camping, there's no 4-wheeler trails, there ain't no river, there ain't no kayakers or none of that, okay? So people are not in this part of the Uwharrie forest. The only people that venture into these woods is folks that live around it, and that's very seldom. I have yet in 7 years now to see another person out there anywhere. But if you're using a trail to get into their area, what they will do, and this is for people, they will break trees across your path. They do that on my 4-wheeler trail. Sometimes they'll do it every other week if I'm going in there a lot. And then if I quit going in there, they stop. And I got one right now. The tree, it was broke over my trail, okay? Well, this thing, it was high enough off the ground, I couldn't touch it with my arms stretched out. So it was broke over high and laid across my trail. So then, here about a month ago, I was walking out here, and I was like, man, don't you look at this? Because we'd started going back out there, messing around some. They had broke some little ones over my trail, but that one, they had took the very end of it, about 6 foot of the end of it, and this tree's at the top end of it, still about 2.5, 3 inches around. They had broke it up, Brian, and stuck it up in some trees. So it's sitting there broke up, not down. You understand what I'm saying?
oh yeah, I've seen examples of what you're talking about.
And I told my brother, I said, look, man, I can't even reach that with my arm fully stretched out. Now, that thing had to be tall enough and strong enough to reach that high and grab that thing and twist it up in the air. It's just broke straight up in the air. And the other part of it's laying still, horizontal. And I was like, yeah, who knows? But they will. Now, if you're going into their area, they'll break trees over your trail. Now, when they do that, yeah, they're telling you to stay out. But the X's and the rainbow structures, they don't have one thing to do with us. It's hunting, markers, and I can tell you this, you can walk that creek bottom down here, and you'll find trees head high. Some of them will be 7 foot, 8 foot, 6 foot. They all be broke off in the same direction. And it's I believe it's just a pathway marker telling them, you go this way. I don't know why else they would do it, and there's a lot of them out here.
Yeah, and for people that have seen the breaks like that, and normally the ones that I've seen that I believe are legitimate, trees break all the time in the woods, right? Wind breaks trees, snow over the years does that. But for the ones that are actually done by Sasquatch that I believe, the examples I've seen, they almost twist them. So they're not completely broken. And I tell anybody, if you want to sort of gauge how powerful these things have to be to do those types of things, go out and try to get on a ladder and go 7 feet up and grab a 3-inch tree and try to break it like that. Break it upwards and then twist it and see how successful you are, because I guarantee you most men can't do it.
You can't do it. No, you can't do it. It's they're very, very powerful. Even a young one. And when I say a young one, I don't know how old they are. I wish something we could find out some way to age them on their foot size. But they get so big, I believe they grow faster than humans do. I had an area, man, stick golly. I don't know. Did I ever send you that daylight picture I had of that one standing beside that tree looking at me?
No, I don't think you did.
Okay. I'm going to send that to you. Me, my brother, my sister, and my nephew. My sister wanted me to take her out. I said, okay, I'll take you. All 4 of us went that day, and we went about 2 miles deep, but I already knew this area was special, okay? And I still didn't go all the way into it because I know what's there. And I'm trying to get some things ready before I do that, because I'm hoping, and it may not happen, but I'm hoping to settle this deal once and for all, just to be honest with you, about Bigfoot and whether they're real or not. I know they are, but anyway, so this is how special that area is. So we was going down in there, and me and my brother, I kept hearing it, he kept hearing it, but I was like, just ignore it. Just pretend like we're headed this direction. We kept hearing something way off to our left, probably 150 yards through the woods, on this little creek bottom ridge line. It was like following us. I said, what we're going to do is we're going to circle back around that way later. So we get down to this big creek bottom, and I see something up on top of the hill, but it happened just like that. So I couldn't say what it was, but whatever it was, it was on top of the hill. And then it took off down the backside of the hill, boom, just like that. And you could hear it, and it was loud, but I just, boom, I saw it, and it was gone. So I was like, that was interesting. So we easing around, and we make our way back to this area. Back in last summer, last summer, we had went down there to the right of this particular area. And there's these 2 oak trees, great big oak trees. I mean, they're big as the hood of my car. And they're about 7, 8 foot maybe apart, but they're side by side. I've got pictures of this too. Brian, I kid you not, something, and it wasn't no bear, because we ain't got no black bear here. And if we do, they're very sparsely, you know what I mean? And this deal starts about 12 foot high in the air, 2 miles deep in the forest. On both of them trees, like side by side, like something grabbed the bark and ripped it off all the way down to the ground on both trees. So it's like one was standing there and reached up there with both hands and grabbed bark. Okay, and then whatever did that pulled wood out of the trees, and I mean, it was just chunked all over the place out there. And I was like, my God, man, what in the world, Well, I know there's a big male out here. Now I know there's 2 big males out here. So when we found that day, last summer, I said, let's get out of here. Let's get on out of here. Not because I was frightened, but because I knew I was getting close. And what I think I found where they actually stay, okay, where they live most of the time. So when me and my brother and my sister was out there that day, we eased around that way. We walked up to them 2 trees. We followed the creek down a little ways. They decided they wanted to take a break. So they sat down on this big rock by the creek. I've got my video camera. I proceed on up the hill. And when I start seeing this stuff, I'm talking to them and telling them what I'm seeing. And I'm like, I've got all this on video. Stick structure, you're out in the middle of the forest. There's no trees damaged or nothing nowhere. And we get into that area, all of a sudden, man, it looks like lean-to shelters built out of sticks. And there's sticks laying stacked on top of each other. And there's X's everywhere. And I was like, and then I start looking at the ground. I'm like, oh, man, prints. And there was just prints everywhere you look. I was like, holy cow, you know. I'm shining around with my video camera, and I did not see the thing while I was there. But I knew we kept hearing something from that direction, you know. So I take pictures of all this stuff. I got it all on video. I make my way back down the hill. We mosey on up the creek. I found a 16-inch track that day, too, on further up the creek. I got pictures of it also. I document everything I find when I find it. I get home. I'm going through my videos because I recorded off and on throughout the whole trip that day. And I get to going through that particular video, and I was like, wow, man, this is crazy. And I was like, wait a minute, what is that right there? And so I hit pause, and I'm going through the video slow, and I was like, holy cow. I caught it, man, in broad daylight. And it wasn't, that one's not a huge one either. It's an adolescent, or juvenile, as they call them. But it's standing there plain as day, broad daylight, looking at me behind a tree. I mean, you can see the right eye, the whole head, side of the face, the shoulder, and all that, plain as day. And it's a blackish, grayish color, and right around the eye, you know, is a lighter. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do. I'd love to see it.
Matter of fact, that picture is my cover picture on my North Carolina Backwoods Bigfoot research page on Facebook now. But yeah, I mean, but you know, I've got some, man. That one right now, as far as I'm concerned, is my best one just because it was daylight, and that thing couldn't have been more than 50 yards from me, and I didn't know it was there until I went back and watched my video. You know what I'm saying? But I knew I was in their wheelhouse because of all the other things I seen. And I have not been back to that spot yet. I'm planning here sometime this summer. We're going to go in from another direction. We're not going to come in from my place. We're going to sneak out there as close as we can get to that area, and we're going to camp out all weekend with our night vision, our audio recorders going, whole 9 yards, and we're not going to go out there and make racket. And you know what I'm saying? I might take a little bit of food to throw out somewhere, see if they'll come to it. But I'm gonna try. I just, man, you know, I'm like, why can't people understand these things are real? Because they are. I mean, they're just as real as me and you. There just ain't a bunch of them. You know, there ain't millions of them or nothing. But they are pretty much throughout the United States and Canada and Australia and some other places. But
yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's as many of these things as some people in the Bigfoot community would say there are, or like people to believe for whatever reason. But there's got to be a pretty healthy population for as many people to see them across the country as they do. Because people report these things, and for every report there is, I mean, you could conservatively say there's probably 100 or 200 people that see them and never tell anybody. So,
oh yeah, that's like the area I live in. I know for a fact that there are other people around here just like my family, but they will not say nothing about it. They just won't because they're afraid people will think they're crazy or whatever. You know what I mean? But here's how I put it in perspective for as population of these creatures. I think about it like this. Just from coming from a hunting background and stuff, from day one, when I first started doing a little bit of research about these things back in 2013, I said, you know, when you take and think about large animals in the world, like say on our continent, that would be black bear, cougars, things like that. How many of them are there? You know, how often are they seen? The larger an animal gets, usually the fewer of them there are, just because. Outside of like elk herds and stuff like that, but that's just because they're herd animals. So I think I tend to believe they keep their populations under control on their own. You know, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I think so. Now, I think when they get into an area where no people ever venture, that they tend to spread their wings a little bit more.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense, man. I mean,
I know for sure here in the past 2 years, I found 3 different sets of juvenile tracks. And then last fall, I found literally baby tracks. My 3-year-old daughter's foot is the same size as them tracks I found. But they don't, I mean, and which was going to bring me to a picture that I got on my trail cam. I did send you that one, but it's at nighttime and it's that face poked out beside a tree. In that picture, you can see one on her back. If I didn't send it to you, I'll send it to you again or whatever. But it's pretty wild, man. I mean, it is, and I'm not the least bit shy about it or anything anymore. I'll talk to a complete stranger about it. If they look at me and think I'm crazy, I just say, well, a lot of people that the government wouldn't admit we had UFOs until this year.
Yeah, man, I've had so many conversations with people about that over the last few months, and it's like, until you've actually experienced something, you can't really describe it to people. And I know, and I get the fact that there are a lot of people out there who don't believe because they haven't had any type of experience. So that's one of the reasons I keep doing this show, is because the more people that talk about it and the more people that share their honest encounters, the more that people, because I can guarantee you a lot of the people that listen to my show don't believe. They're skeptics. Sure. And I love skeptical people. I'm skeptical myself. I go into every situation and listen to everybody's encounters with sort of a skeptical mind. I was a cop for 16 years. That's what I was trained to do,
I do too. And that's why I started doing this investigating for myself. Of course, it took me having an encounter, and then that made me a believer. And then I was like, well, I've got to know what's going on here. Because in my mind, I was thinking, man, I've been in these woods and on these rivers almost my whole life. I should have known about these things before now. But,
And you're not by yourself, man. That's the story that I hear from hunters and people that spend, 10, 15, 20 years of their life in the woods almost every weekend, and they don't know anything about them until they have an encounter. And I think that's just the way it happens. And it's...
Yeah, and that's the question that I keep in the back of my mind, and I ask it from time to time. I'm not one of these people that thinks the government don't know about Sasquatch. I believe they do know about them. They do know what they are, and for some reason they don't want it to be public information.
And I tend to agree with that, man.
That's what I'd like the answer to. That's the question I want an answer to.
Yeah, when you hear so many stories about over and over and over again, people who have these types of encounters, and I know that there are people have come forward and said they've been part of kill teams that have worked for the government to go out and take these things out in certain areas. And right. I think it's foolish for us to believe that the government doesn't know about them. I don't know that I'm in the big conspiracy theory camp that, the government's been covering it up for years, and that may be true. I don't know.
No, I don't believe that either. Like when you say cover it up, like I've heard the stories too, and I'm not saying some of them ain't true, but they sent this team of special ops to this area and they killed them all. I don't know if I buy that or not. It could have happened somewhere, but I mean, things like I'm talking about is like back in the 70s. The Army Corps of Engineers put out a native species map. Okay. At that particular year, Sasquatch got put on that map and then it got removed. They're not allowed to put a species on that map unless they've documented it. So how did that happen? I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
It did happen because I have the new, well, I don't have it. I have copies of it, the newspaper article and the map. And, it goes back to people's been telling about these things for centuries. I've got a friend, he actually think that there's some kind of government project gone bad. I was like, no, they're not, dude. I mean, the Indians and the settlers wrote and told about these things hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So, no, that's not what they are.
Yeah, I've heard people say the same thing, and that's always my go-to is like, well, if that's the case, then they would have had to have this experiment 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago in this country, and even farther back in history from the native and First Nations people that have talked about these things in their stories that have been passed down. So.
The Leif Erikson account, that's all the way back in like 700, 711 AD or something like that. So, and he wrote about them. He described them in detail. They hollered and threw rocks at them, and they were big, tall, hairy, stinky men, and they come and stole their fish.
And it's still going on in the Uwharrie National Forest to this day, right?
It's still going on today. Yeah, I got some things in the works. Like I told you, we're going to try to do that.
Well, definitely let me know, man. If it's going to come up this summer, then I told you the last time I talked to you, I wanted to come up there and go into some of your areas. If you and Lee invited me when I had him on the show to do the same thing. So I'll definitely take you up on the offer, man. I'd love to come up there and see your areas and experience what you guys have experienced. It's been phenomenal just hearing about it. I'd love to see it and experience it firsthand.
We're trying to get that planned, and we're definitely going to do it. I just don't know exactly what weekend yet. And, but now, just like I took my cousin out, she bugged me, and her name's Kim. I said, Kim, I can't promise you that they'll show up and do anything. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. That particular night, they wouldn't cooperate. Nothing happened. It just is what it is. But yeah, we're gonna do that deal, and I'll send you some more pictures and stuff. And I was gonna tell you too, this track, that thing is 8.5 inches wide across the toes, and it's 15.5 inches long. The one that I sent you the picture of.
Yeah, it looks like a massive track, man.
It is crazy, man. And then my brother didn't make it. He messaged me. He's having trouble changing a flat tire, but maybe one day you get to interview him. And
yeah, just let me know, man. I'd love to have him on. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming back for round 2, Bobby. It's never disappointing, man. You've always got some great stuff going on, and I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing it. I know the listeners love it. They loved your first show, and I know they'll love this one too. So I really appreciate your time, man.
I appreciate you having me, man, and I appreciate what you're doing, and you kind of doing it same kind of reason I am. I started my own page on Facebook because I just kind of got tired of weeding through the BS. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, man. There's plenty out there.
There's a lot of BS in the Bigfoot world. So that's why I started doing it myself. I don't want to say I'm a jerk. I don't make too many jokes and stuff about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
Because it really needs to be an answer, in my opinion, as to why when you go to the Uwharrie Forest and you look at one of the boards, you stop at one of the boards and it has pictures of the local wildlife on it. There's a picture missing that should be there, and it's not. And I want to know why.
I absolutely agree, man. Tell us one more time where what your Facebook page is so we can send everybody over there to take a look at your stuff.
It's North Carolina Backwoods Bigfoot Research on Facebook.
There you go, folks. I encourage everybody to go over and take a look at Bobby's page, and he's got some great stuff over there. Thanks again, Bobby, for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. You take care.
And that's it for tonight's show, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.